So, of course, we'll be delivering sensible savings and budget repair, which is fair. On the other hand, the Liberals have one idea, a $50 billion tax cut for big business, with highly questionable returns to justify that very significant cost. And today's national accounts figures underline the need for the next government of Australia to have a proper plan for Australia's economic future, to drive economic growth right across our economy, and to have more than just one idea of a big business tax cut. Now, of course, any headline figure like this is welcome, but let's be very clear. This figure is driven entirely by net exports. Without net exports, we would have had a flat quarter of economic growth. Now, of course, we welcome the boost in LNG exports, which are a result of those facilities coming online, and of course, some government action in China as well in relation to iron ore. But this is not a plan for Australia's future. We can't rely on the government of China to be stimulating. We can't rely on Australia's LNG exports to drive our growth going forward. The Treasurer was out there yesterday warning of fragility in the domestic economy. Well, I agree. And that just shows and underlines that this government's record when it comes to economic growth is nothing to boast about. Beneath the headline figures, we know that there's an economy struggling with falling demand and falling income growth. In these figures today, we see the 8th consecutive decline in nominal income, in other words, living standards, the most sustained decline in our history since records began. We have a government promising to manage the economic transition, but the fact of the matter is the transition could be going a whole lot better. For Australians who are trying to get into the labour market, for Australians who are wondering whether they can keep their jobs into the future, for Australians who are aspiring for a better future for their children, to make sure that they have good, well-paying jobs, that they have the chance to get into the housing market. Labor has plans to deal with these things. Labor has a plan which has been the result of 2 years' hard work, of policy effort. The government has had lots of plans. Plan A, increasing the GST. Plan B, state income tax. And now we're meant to believe that the right plan is the one they finally settled on after all else failed. Plan C, a corporate income tax cut. Well, we will continue to make the case for Labor's well-considered economic plans, and today's figures underline the need for those plans to be implemented. The task to meet an incoming shortened Labor government will be a substantial one. But because of the hard work that we've done, because of the well-considered policies we've announced and will continue to announce, we'll be ready to meet those challenges. Happy to take some questions.
Yesterday at the press conference, you said that the Liberal Party were preempting a poor result today. Doesn't seem to be the case, particularly in regards to headline figures. Why were you wrong yesterday in presuming that the...
Well, I don't accept the premise of that question at all. Quite clearly that I don't think anybody could suggest the Treasurer wasn't out there yesterday preparing for bad news, and there is bad news within these results. I mean, if you are relying entirely on your net exports to avoid a flat quarter, then you have a very fragile economy as indeed, and the Treasurer knows that. It's one thing we might agree on.
Have these figures taken you by surprise?
No, I think it was widely speculated upon, particularly after the release of the balance of trade figures yesterday, that net exports would be a significant contributor boosting the headline rate, and that's exactly what's happened. And if you look at all the serious commentary out this morning, it was pointing out the fragility underlying what would be potentially a welcome headline rate, but headlines don't make for real progress in terms of the living standards of Australians.
Do you acknowledge that these...
There, because the Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull has just stepped up from a Medi conference. He's in Brisbane today.